Hey everybody, welcome to Local Business Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Case, and I'm on a mission to help you. Every week, we're going to be talking to local business owners and experts to get their best tips, tricks, and hacks to grow your business. This show is designed to teach you, inspire you, and motivate you to take massive action and start to build your future-proof business. Whether you're just starting off or you're taking your existing business to the next level, this episode is for you. So let's get started. Hey listeners, I'm your host, Carl Case, Head of Business Development at Referrizer, joined today by Layton from 4Wall Insights. Larry has been in the franchise development space for the last 20 years and has gotten the opportunity to form today what is 4Wall Insights to dump his data knowledge brain on everybody. And Larry, I'm super excited for you to tell the world your story and welcome to the podcast.
Likewise, my brother. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So Larry, talk to me a little bit about how you got to this point and what ultimately made you jump from aiding brands into becoming global powerhouses to now being on your own and really being able to get knee deep in the franchise world.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the great opportunity to be able to work with various franchise groups at various stages of growth. You know, started with the regional, actually the global brands, national, multinational brands, and saw what large franchise systems look like, systems, process, the value of all that. But also then had a chance to work with our early stage startups, regional brands. And each one of those franchise groups have distinct challenges that they need to work through. So now today I'm focusing on the early stage franchise groups and help them scale their businesses.
That's amazing. And Larry, I can imagine that you have some wild stories. I got to know you a little bit before this of working with truthfully brands of all different sizes and stages. So I know that you have a lot from the educational side that you can provide to our listeners, both franchisees, franchisors, and people that are looking to start their business. I'm going to let you take the floor. What are some things that you can educate us on?
Oh, awesome. Well, I appreciate that. It really starts from early on. I'm a dude from Guatemala, Central America, born and raised there. I came from a family of means, and all of a sudden in the early 80s, the Civil War was going through, and there was a lot of kidnapping where the kidnapping was helping fund communist agendas. That was really scary for us. And what really was a game changer for us was that my siblings and I circumvented a kidnap attempt. And that's when my folks said, all right, it's time for us to get out of here. But what's crazy is that during that time, the government did not want people of means to leave the country because, you know, it's like economical powerhouses and what have you. So we said, hey, we had a station wagon and BMW, stuffed everything we could put in there, and then came to the United States. And the rest of it is history, man. I got to tell you that coming from having so much that all of a sudden I find myself in Southern California sleeping. We rented a small little apartment, sleeping on the floor, didn't have a bed for 6 months. New school, new culture, learning the language. And holy smokes, this is where I was able to get a lot out of those experiences, where most importantly is how important it is to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, at an early age, it's like, Larry, all right, healthy tension keeps you on your A game. Funny story is that, so I came in the 8th grade, November of 81. And I thought, all right, got to get myself involved. Graduated from elementary school or middle school, and I went to high school. And I thought, all right, what am I going to do? I'm going to get involved here. So I decided I'm going to play baseball because I played soccer and baseball in Guatemala. And all of a sudden, that's when I realized, Larry, you got to know the seasons, because here's this short guy going into this big, huge high school. And I see all these football players coming in. I've got my baseball cap and my mitt, and I'm looking for a coach. I said, Coach, I'm here to play baseball. And then he looks at me, and while all the other huge football players are saying, who is this chap? Why is he coming in dressed the way he is? That's football. And then the very kind coach looked at me and goes, son, we're not in baseball season here. We're playing football. So why don't you come and see us in the spring? So that's when you start learning. It's like, okay, know where you're at and the seasons. But the most important thing is embracing challenges. Carl, I got to tell you that tough times create strength. And I've learned also how strength creates easy times eventually, but then it goes full circle, how easy times creates weakness and weakness creates tough times again. And I saw it with my own family. You know, the old saying is that a well-watered tree has shallow roots, but it's during the aridness, it's like it's forcing us to go deep. And so I have used these little seeds of challenges and I've applied it to my life today. So
that's amazing. Larry, you know this, but for those of you listening and want to go experience the coolest country, I think, in the world, hop on a plane and go to Guatemala. And my recommendation is to check out Lake Atitlan better. But there's a lot to offer in Guatemala. I'm glad you've made it at this point, and I'm really excited for you. This new chapter of deep diving into 4Wall insights and your education alone that you bring to this space is incredible. So, Larry, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share a story that leads into why you are the man to go to in this space.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. It's all about asking the right questions. And you said, why are things happening? There's shared lessons, how success and failures from the past. I got to tell you, I've learned most of my lessons from these challenges and failures. So by asking the right question really shapes and strengthens your franchise brand. And this is what I've been working with these early stage franchisors on. So, all right, what is the landscape today? Why haven't there so many franchisors that haven't grown and matured and strengthened their brands? They are finding themselves there in a position of weakness financially. So I got to share with you some of the Fran Data put a report that they put out in 2017 that said approximately there are 3,800 franchisors in the United States. And from that, there's an additional 250 to 350 of these brands elect to go into franchising. But what's crazy is that 82% of the franchisors in the United States have less than 100 units. I'm thinking, my gosh, there's an opportunity for scale. But also, if you're under 100, there is challenges here financially. Early stage franchisors, 60% of them are in this stage, where 25% of that 60, approximately 900 of these franchisors have 0 units. It's crazy to think. 36% in the United States have 1 to 25 units. That's over 1,350 franchisors in the United States. There's a tremendous opportunity out there. So
yeah, I think that from my end, at least, having the right tech stack is definitely one of the bottlenecks. So for those of you that are looking to grow your brand, here's a shout out to Referrizer. It's amazing how many groups hover around the 25 and then the 100 mark, and either very few actually make it to scaling past that.
Yeah. And the challenge there, Carl, is that they don't achieve royalty self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
So they're cutting corners and they're cheating what they're all about because they're really hungry to bring in new franchisees to be able to keep the lights on and pay their people.
100%. I've learned something really important from you, and those are the 6 steps that you include on real operating systems. I think that it's incredibly valuable. If you don't mind sharing that with our audience, I welcome
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Well, first of all, going back to the question, why are 60% of these franchisors struggling? Why are they stuck in the early stages? And I got to tell you, I've experienced that they come in too early. They're underdeveloped, their process, their systems are unrefined. They underestimate the amount of time, Carl, that it takes to get established. They are undercapitalized, cash strapped. Many franchisors think, well, you know what, I could launch this franchise system that'll probably cost me around $250,000. And all of a sudden they're realizing, my goodness, I'm already $1 million, $2 million in just to be able to, again, scale, right? I found that they're also rejecting sound, practical advice from the professionals. They go about it on their own. They choose to go alone. And that's a huge mistake. And this is why a lot of these early franchisors, early stage, are struggling. They're recruiting anyone who will buy their franchise. And this is where we talk about culture, right? You underestimate, you're bringing in the wrong people. There's the courtship when the franchise development people are coming in and say, hey, come into our brand. But then all of a sudden, as an ops guy, I am married to this individual for the next 10 to 20 years. And this is where franchisors are stuck in dealing with many challenges and trials there. I see that also leadership teams wear too many hats and they don't have the expertise to be able to focus on serving their franchisees. I've also seen way too many times the Peter principle, where the OG team, the originals, they're part of the founders, they get promoted, but then they reach a level of incompetence and they're not able to serve their franchisees. So a lot of them are overstretched and don't have the wherewithal to really serve their franchisees. Finally, there's a lack of communication, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges I've had a chance to talk with franchisees and helping franchisors scale. I said, what's going on? And I got to tell you, going back to the questions of what's working, what's not, and then what's that one thing? I really subscribe to the 80-20 rule. It's like if there was one thing that would be a game changer, what would that be? And I got to tell you that a lot of them say there's just a breakdown in communication and support. So what I'm finding here, they're seeds of opportunities, learning from these challenges from the early stage franchisors. And I got to tell you that, again, it's asking the right questions. And EOS has been a game changer. What I love about EOS is that they really frame things into 6 easy components. It's about your vision, your people, the data. It's about, do you have the right process and systems and traction? So I'll go through all that. So let's start with vision. What is your vision as a franchisor? What are your core values? They got to be front and center. Why? I got to tell you, my brother, that culture will eat strategy, your business plans, and everything you have put together. So you got to have the right culture there. And those core values, establishing your north, will be essential for the good times, but especially during the challenging times that every franchisor goes through. Next is people. It's about, are there clear roles and responsibilities that are constantly being looked at and updated because you're evolving, you're growing. The needs of your franchisees as you start off, maybe if you're bringing a franchisee who's a single unit or a multi-unit, they have different needs. So you've got to make sure that your people are serving them. Your people, do you have them in the right seat? Are there the right people in the right seat that get it, that they want it, and they also have the capacity to be able to serve your franchisees? I got to tell you that roles and responsibilities, organizational charts, throw that away. What is a game changer is accountability chart. Who's accountable for what? Because I've seen it many times as they're growing, franchisors and the leadership teams. Wait, I thought you had it. No, you have it. And then you've got franchisees that are sending requests for information and they're sending it on the to line of their email to 20 people because they don't know who's going to do it. And they don't know and trust that someone's going to respond to them. So when everyone owns it, no one owns it. I got to tell you how many times every organization have their sacred cows. But I use the analogy in talking to the leadership teams and the franchisors, the visionary guys, as saying, look, what if I told you they come into a room and in the corner you see a broken violin? I said, well, what do you think? Do you see any value in that? He goes, well, I don't know. Does it have any utility? No, because it's broken. But what if I told you, Carl, that violin is Antonio Vivaldi's violin? Then all of a sudden you go, whoa, that's incredible. And then you admire it. But then all of a sudden, though, organizations that have rooms filled with these sacred cows that have no utility. And it's important to make sure that the people that you have in place really are the right ones in the right seats to be able to provide that. Data, my goodness, I don't know about you, but watching my children when they started playing soccer, it was a game changer when we started keeping score. When the little kids are not playing for score, they're sloppy. But all of a sudden, it's like, okay, they've matured and graduated to, we're keeping score. They're bringing their A game. Yeah. So as a leadership team in a company, how do you bring your A game is to making sure that you have a scorecard. So are the right metrics being tracked to help manage the business? Is there a scorecard of 5 to 15 high level numbers that are really driving your day-to-day business there? And the beauty about data, it takes the emotion out of what we as people tend to add. There's no more egos. You get rid of the subjectivity and all the other stuff. So data is absolutely essential. Finally, what's really interesting is issues. How is your organization identifying, discussing, and solving the issues? Every organization has these issues here. A lot of groups, what I'm finding is that they're dealing with the root, with the symptoms and not with the root. So the wisdom of asking the 5 whys. Why is this happening? And whatever the answer is, ask it again. Why is this? Until you finally are clear that you are dealing with the root and not the issue. Also, how you can tell that you're dealing with the root is that once you address that issue, it disappears. Yeah. But if these issues are coming back and back again, that's because you're dealing with the symptom, not the real issue there. So how important it is to identify, shed light to what are the challenges here and solve those. I got to tell you that addressing the problems will save you 2 to 10 times the amount of time it takes to address that in the future there. So issues is a key component in how your leadership team are addressing those. Finally, a process. How effective are you process the organizational way? Look, I'm an ops guy, and I got to tell you, Carl, how many times I've seen exquisite ideas get undermined by poor execution every single time. So do you have a process? Have you named the process? Do you have a visual of the process? I got to tell you that from a franchise development perspective, when you have that visual, all of a sudden you're helping build confidence with your future franchisees. Hey, these guys have their stuff together here. So show me how you do it. Don't tell me, but show me. So the importance of having that process well-defined, I got to tell you, it's the magic. It's resulting in simplicity, scalability, efficiencies. When you have the right process and everyone knows it, it's incredible. It really is. Finally, where I'm finding that traction is the sixth component here. What is traction? How do you rate yourself at accountability ladder here, where your team is focused and disciplined throughout your organization? A lot of franchisors, when you ask, how would you rate yourself from a 1 to 10? They tend to rate themselves a 4. That says a lot. And so you got to ask, well, why is that, right? And going back to, you're creating a culture of ownership and accountability. You're meeting every single week at the same time. It's the same agenda. Everyone comes prepared. They're bringing their A game. It's always day one. Day one, when you open up your first business, as you remember, everyone is creating that healthy tension. Speaking of that, you're there and you're here to win. So don't lose that. And traction will ensure that your teams are following the secret sauce and making sure that we are delivering and overserving our franchisees. It's a game changer there. I can't emphasize enough, in the spirit of ownership and accountability, that everyone is accountable for at least one line item, one number that keeps the business going. You need to know where to go to when there's issues and challenges on that piece there. So traction is absolutely incredible.
Larry, this is amazing. I think that if companies would understand these 6 steps, it could really set them up for success as they continue to scale. And one thing that you hark on a lot is asking those questions. And that's why I'm always educating people on asking those questions, not only to the people that you think are right, but ask them who they think is the right person to answer that question. Because sometimes, unless you ask, they're not going to tell you that, and they're going to give you their best insight, when in reality, if it's not aligning with the rest of the team, it's not going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it way too many times with the larger franchise groups, how success breeds complacency, and complacency oftentimes breeds failure.
Yep.
And with groups where they'll open up a unit and they're wickedly successful, they just open the doors and the customers are lining up to go. But all of a sudden, the marketplace is so keen to, okay, how can I do it better and more efficient? And sooner or later, if you don't wake up, you're going to go, holy smokes. Someone right next to me, there's an early stage or a local brand that is twice as effective in bringing value to the marketplace. Look, I got to tell you, Carl, that what I've learned is that business is a virtuous game, because it's all about thriving organizations. I've learned you got to stay humble. You got to stay hungry. You've got to create opportunities that are curious to drive and address the needs of others. And so I love the book by Jason Jennings that talks about think big and act small. There's something very special in that you're armed with exquisite big ideas, but you're acting small, meaning you're humble. The team comes together as one. There's not one person that's smart in the group, the collective group here, and that they're yearning to serve others there. There's something pretty special there. But sometimes we tend to get in our own way, where how many times have you seen it where you think and act big? You've seen companies that think and act big. They're bloated with kowtowing individuals, and it's all about you as the leader and not the people you're trying to serve. That's not scalable, and it's not sustainable. Then you've got the think small and then act big. Those are the ones at the parties where they're saying deep inside, man, I could barely, get this thing going. But they go at parties, they're saying, oh yeah, I'm owner of this group and this franchise, and we're going global when they haven't even been able to go launch their brand locally, for crying out loud. Then what's also interesting is that, look, if you're going to go into business, those people that think small and act small, essentially what you've done is just bought yourself a job. And that's not scalable as well. So making sure that you're going back to the core values and who you are, what's your why? People don't care what you do, but why you do it. And the why is absolutely essential here. And at the end, are you bringing value to others? Are you serving others? And it's a fun ride, man. It's just, there's something to be said, as Tony Robbins that talks about how progress equals happiness. We all want to be happy, but we all have different definitions of happiness, but it's progress individually in your personal life, your professional life. Progress is just a sweet little spot there. So love it.
Love that. Well, Larry, I so appreciate it from our team to you. Before we wrap up, how can people get involved with you and 4Wall Insights?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Two things. Right now, I've got 4Wall Insights, my website. It's www.4wallinsights, number 4, wallinsights.com. But I got to tell you, Carl, that also social media it's new to me. Like with Instagram, how priceless would it be for you to be able to spend a day with your younger self? And so a guy now in his 50s, how pricey would it have been for me to go back and spend a day with my 20-year-old version of myself? And so because of that, I'm big on mentorship and helping others build and learn from our own mistakes. You can also find me at Tanny_insights. And essentially, core audience are 20s and 30s. And it's all about casting, giving, and being light to others. So sharing insights on business operations, life, and culture. So it's fun. It's a learning process for me, but you know what? If you're not learning and if you're not growing, you're dying. So I welcome it.
That's awesome, Larry. Well, thank you so much from our team to yours.
Thank you very much. Enjoy. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to head over to our site, local-business-hacks.com, to check out the show notes and send me questions or ideas for future episodes. If you want to grow your business, just like the people you've heard from here, follow Local Business Hacks Podcast and tune in for new tips, tricks, and tactics. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep hacking.